Do low carb and low fat diets have the same effect on your appetite? Well, a new study seems to suggest that maybe that's the case. I'm Dr. Brett Scher, the medical director at dietdoctor.com, and I want to explore this study a little bit with you because our position at Diet Doctor is that the strength of the evidence generally supports that a lower carb, high fat diet with an adequate amount of protein is a great diet for helping lower your appetite, reduce your cravings, and naturally have you eat less. There's a great deal of evidence to support that. But now this new study comes out, which seems to suggest that maybe there's no difference between a higher carb and a lower carb diet. So when that happens at Diet Doctor, we want to explore this to make sure that we understand what's going on here when we have contradictory information. We don't want to just ignore it. So this study was very interesting. I wrote a post about this on dietdoctor.com, so if you want all the details written down, you can go check it out there. But there were 84 overweight subjects who had diabetes, and they were randomized to either a 14% carbohydrate diet, which they listed as less than 50 grams per day, or a 53% carbohydrate diet. And they calorie restricted both diets. So that's an interesting part right there, calorie restricting both diets, because one of the benefits of low carb diets is they tend to naturally calorie restrict, as some studies have shown. So that's an interesting part. But here's the other thing. They limited both diets to being 10% saturated fats. And this is part of where I see the problem. So let's skip to the conclusion first. They found that the appetite, the ability to fast, the hunger, the thinking about food, those weren't much different in either of the groups at the end of the study. But here's where I think some of the differences are. Limiting saturated fat. So if you limit saturated fat, you're getting rid of your meat, your eggs probably, and a lot of your cheese and your dairy. So where's the fat coming from? Well, a lot of the fat's going to come from oils probably. Hopefully olive oil, but maybe some seed oils. And let's face it, those types of fats aren't as satiating as a nice big steak. The mix of protein and fat, the nice real whole foods, those are going to be more satiating. So that's one issue I have with this study. The other is, though, even at the 50 grams per day and the 14% of energy, these patients weren't in ketosis. Their BHB levels averaged 0.2, with nutritional ketosis generally being defined as 0.5. So they really weren't in consistent ketosis, which I think is interesting at that level of carb restriction, which makes me wonder if they were complying with the diet. It makes me wonder of the makeup of the diet that wasn't helping them get into ketosis. So ketones likely themselves have an appetite suppressing effect. So with those caveats, the way I interpret this study is either one, it was a low carb but not ketogenic study, and therefore it's the ketones that make the difference with making you feel fuller, or the saturated fat has a lot to do with it because you're eating the whole foods rather than the oils. And the third is, does the purposely calorie restricting have something to do with it rather than just the ad libitum feeding? So anyway, that's my take on the study. I don't think it's strong enough for us to say all carb, all high carb diets and all low carb diets are the same with appetite. The remainder of the evidence that we have clearly suggests that's not the case. So if you're eating a whole foods with plenty of saturated fats in there, not being afraid of saturated fats because the evidence does not support that you need to be, and just eating when hungry and stopping when you're full, that's the diet that I think we need to promote to really help with reducing your appetite and therefore helping with time-restricted eating. All right. It doesn't mean that's the only diet that can do it, but gosh, it sure seems to be a pretty effective one. Anyway, so that's our take on the study. Hope that was helpful. You can read more about it at dietdoctor.com and click subscribe below so you get all of our updates and you'll see all our videos. Thanks. Have a great day, everybody.